Good morning, friends. Welcome to the second day of the MLF. And I want to launch into this session without any delay because we have with us my distinguished panelist here with whom I'm going to be in conversation, Mr. Mani Shankar Aiyar. I just want to make a couple of points. Mr. Aiyar has been, one way or another, in public life for a very, very long time. He was a diplomat from 1963 to 89, momentous periods in India's domestic and geopolitical history. He then joined politics full-time in 1989, served as a member of parliament several times, representing Mayiladuthurai in Tamil Nadu, and then he held many positions in the Congress party, was a union minister in several ministries. So he's lived, seen, and got kicked out. He's been variously praised to the skies by his colleagues and others, and also been called a loose cannon by many. So he's been through it all. And I'm going to take some advantage of him because as a politician or ex-politician, he surely has a very thick skin. So I'm going to try and poke him a little bit, if I might. So with these few words, Mani, if I might, I'd like to start by asking you, what made you make that pretty profound switch from being an IFS career diplomat, obviously climbing the diplomatic or the IFS ladder? In 89, you just dropped it and decided to become a member of parliament. I mean, it's a huge move in those times. So what prompted it?
Well, I particularly want to answer this question in Mysuru, because it was here in Mysuru that I first asked Rajiv Gandhi whether I could leave the foreign service and join him in politics. And the reason for that was that we had come to Mysuru.
Hold it a little closer to you. Yeah.
We had come to Mysuru by helicopter, and we were going from here to Kadapa in Andhra Pradesh. So all the Karnataka politicians got left behind in Mysore, and all the Andhra politicians were waiting for him in Andhra. So I had him to myself for an hour and a half. Wow. There was no one else in the helicopter. So after I did my principal job in PMO, which was to pretend to be his left hand, because he sat in the helicopter on the right side and would be waving to those who'd come to see him off on the right side. And my job in the Prime Minister's office as his joint secretary was to hide my face on the left side and wave my hand so that they think Rajiv was waving to them as well. So after that was over, I asked him, I said to him, I want to leave the foreign service and join you. And he looked stunned. He said, why? So I said, well, you know some of it, but I have to tell you that when I was 11, no, not even 11, I was 10 and a half, the first Indian election took place. And I was fascinated with the spectacle of jeeps carrying candidates going past me, banners, slogans, speeches, platforms, people going in processions. And so I was so fascinated with the process that I held an election in my class. I was in a boarding school. The most mischievous boy in the class went to the board and wrote up that Pritinder Singh Virk's mom and pop are commies. At which point Pritinder came to hit him, and it descended into a fracas, and the principal arrived and promptly ended democracy in Willem School. So it's from there that I have been interested. I fought every election. For some reason, I was so attracted to the elective process that even when I knew I was not going to win, I just couldn't help myself from standing. And that has stood me in very good stead because instinctively I learned that in politics, to be able to even enter it, you have to be able to win, which is easy, but you also have to take loss.
Right.
And that is because in politics, and I think in life generally, when you reach the summit, it's the point at which your descent to the valley begins. And when you hit the floor of the valley, that is when your ascent to the summit begins. So if you want your life to be on a gentle gradient, rising upwards, with the only thing wondering whether the gradient will be like this or whether it will be like this, then politics is not for you. But if you're willing to accept that life will be like this, then you can come into politics. So those children here who are vaguely thinking of what they'll do in the rest of their lives, just ask yourself, do you want to be tomorrow better off than you were yesterday? If so, politics is not for you. Are you ready to take the rough with the smooth? Then join us. You're welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think, Mani, talking about politics for a minute, I think there was a very telling comment in his latest book, A Maverick in Politics. It's well worth reading, and I've been doing it over the last few days. A former Prime Minister, I.K. Gujral, meets you and he says, Mani, in politics, good work is never rewarded for an MP on the ground. It's a very telling comment. You can think you're doing very good work for your constituents and the people, but it's not rewarded with a win. The two are disconnected. What was your experience there?
My experience was that nobody in a parliamentary election votes for the candidate.
Wow.
The lower you go, or in a panchayat election, they don't care which party you belong to. They know you. They know that you're Ravi or you're Saras, and whether they like Ravi and prefer Saras or the other way around, it becomes a personal choice of a candidate. As you rise, and by the time you reach the parliament, they're not voting for or against me. They're voting for or against Jayalalitha. They're voting for or against Karunanidhi. So, a parliamentary election, in my view, can easily be conducted only by asking people to cast their votes for a symbol they prefer. Because the candidate becomes irrelevant, and it's perfectly logical. Because their lives over the next 5 years are going to be much more determined by who is the chief minister and who is the prime minister than by who is the stupid member of parliament. So the member of parliament doesn't count. And it's a pure ego trip that I have been elected. I've neither been elected nor not elected. It's if I am in the right party or the right coalition, I can smoothly come through. So in 1991, when everyone was predicting that I was a parvenu in politics, that I couldn't speak Tamil, I don't know how many of you can follow this, but I used to meet the charge of not being able to speak Tamil by saying, Neenga pesirudhu Shen Tamil. What you're speaking is classical Tamil. Neenga pesirudhu Shen Tamil, na pesirudhu Yen Tamil. So I got away with it. At the end, I was very near Mysore. I went to Pollachi. I was declared by a Rotary Club there the best parliamentarian. In my constituency, they all said that they'd never known what was the job of an MP until I came there. I went to every single panchayat in my constituency. I used the MP lads' funds to meet their requirements. I very quickly learned that it was not for me to decide what they wanted, but to ask them what they wanted. So if you go to my constituency today, 35 years after I went in first, they'll all tell you the best MP there's ever been is Mani Shankar Aiyar. And yet, you then ask them the next question, in that case, why do you keep defeating him? And they look bewildered. But the answer was given by I.K. Gujral, who said that he had learnt from a man called H.R. Khanna. I don't think any of you have heard that name. H.R. Khanna was a prominent congressman in Peshawar. And he came along with people from, Hindus from Pakistan, to India, many of whom got settled in Delhi. And he was the most popular leader of the Congress in Delhi because he was doing a very good job. And then suddenly, a foreign service officer called M.L. Sondhi, who had no experience of politics, stood against him in Delhi on a Jansang ticket, and H.R. Khanna got defeated. And Gujral, who was his shagird, who was his favorite slave, went to him and said, "Sir, what happened?" He said, "What happened was that I built houses for everyone, but not all of them wanted the ground floor. But I had to give the first floor to many. So those who didn't get a house voted against me. Those to whom I gave a first floor voted against me. And only the ground floor occupants voted for me. That is why I lost." So an individual does not count in a massive democracy like us. So when people say that I am the Prime Minister of India, just look at his voting record. Only 1/3 of Indians have ever voted for Mr. Modi. And yet the most all-powerful, authoritarian Prime Minister we've ever had is the same Mr. Modi. 2/3 of all Indians have never voted for him in 3 elections. And if 2/3 of all Indians haven't voted for him, it means that half of Hindus haven't voted for him, because half Hindus understand that Hinduism is not Hindutva, and half Indians think Hindutva is Hinduism. Now, who's going to tackle this by saying, I built that road, or I gave you that ration card? It won't work. It is bigger issues that determine the larger outcomes.
So very interesting. But since you are on the topic of, you ended with the topic of Mr. Modi, Mani, when you entered the Foreign Service, Nehru was about to pass away. 1964, you entered the service in 63. Since then, you as a diplomat first, and then as a parliamentarian, as a politician, and as a minister, you've seen a huge number of Indian prime ministers, and including Shastri in his early post-Nehru years. I want you to give a very rapid-fire assessment, if you can. Which prime ministers, in your view, really stand out as, would you say, as a great prime minister?
Head, shoulders, and toes. Jawaharlal Nehru over everybody else. Lal Bahadur, a very poor second, not because he was poor or second, but because he had only a year and a half. And he handled the language problem, which came up in his time, in a very, very silly manner. It was Indira Gandhi who saved the situation when the agitation started in Tamil Nadu against the rule in the Constitution, the provision in the Constitution, which it said that Hindi would become the only national language of India after 15 years from the passage of the Constitution. And it was Indira Gandhi who thought up the 3-language formula, which has been observed only in the breach by northern Indians, because the 3rd language they pick is not Tamil or Kannada or Malayalam or Telugu or Marathi or Gujarati. They all say the 3rd language is Sanskrit, and none of them speak Sanskrit. So they have cheated us. And that is why now, and I'm amazed that Maharashtra, of all places, which can easily shift from Marathi to Hindi, they are objecting to the imposition of Hindi. So I think this question of whether India is to be uniform or unity is to be found in diversity is after 70 years of independence, 75 years of independence, the most important question before the country. We can only live if a Kannadiga has the right to speak Kannada, has the right to believe that I belong to the state of Karnataka, that I do not belong to the state of Kerala, or do not belong to Tamil Nadu, and that the Kaveri is mine, not Mani Shankar Aiyar's. Unless you have that right, how do you become an Indian? If you can only be an Indian if your sub-cultures, your linguistic culture, your religion, whether you dance the Kuchipudi or you dance the Bharatanatyam, whether you like Carnatic music or Hindi music, it's all this that once you are assured that you can be a good OBC Karnataka resident, that you can then say, oh, all right, in that case, I'll be a good Indian. But if you're told that you can't be this or you can't be that, or you better learn this or you better belong to this religion or this culture, that's all that you have, because we are one nation, one election, one party, one leader. It can't work in a country like ours. I am the smallest minority I know. I am a Tamil Brahmin refugee from Pakistan. Now, if I'm not allowed to be a Tamil Brahmin, I don't like being a Brahmin. I have rejected my Brahmin identity. But the fact of the matter is, the minute I open my mouth in Tamil, they know that this guy is trying to cheat us. If I'm not allowed to speak Tamil, well, I speak Tamil very badly. But at least I have the right to speak it badly. I have the right to speak it well as well. But if you deny me that right, if you tell me that I am a Pakistani because I was born in Lahore, that I'm only a guest in this country because I came as a refugee, why should I be an Indian? I can only be an Indian if a Tamil Brahmin refugee from Pakistan is accepted as much as a general in the Indian army. So therefore, when we have other leaders, you talked of Indira Gandhi. Now, I thought she was a very good woman, but when she declared the emergency, she went to the bottom of my list. She went to the bottom of my list. I never forgave her. When Rajiv became the Prime Minister, I said, how can a man like him become the PM? But then when I found that despite the fact that he'd been an airline pilot, he had been thinking about India. A little incident had taken place when he was at school. Jawaharlal Nehru came to see his grandson, and they couldn't find Rajiv anywhere. So they sent people all over the 72-acre school campus. They couldn't find him anywhere. When some boy said that when they played hide and seek, there used to be these big wicker baskets where we throw down our dirty clothes. He says hiding in the wicker basket was a favorite trick that was played when they were playing hide and seek. So they went to the bathroom, they opened the wicker basket, and there was Rajiv sitting inside the basket because he was so embarrassed that his grandfather had come to see him. So I this story was recounted by the headmaster's wife in a book that had just come out. So when I first got the opportunity, I asked Rajiv if this story was true. And his answer was very interesting. He didn't answer it. He never answered my question. What he said was that, Mani, I did have opinions always, but if I expressed them and they were the same as my grandfather, they would say, you're just parroting his views. And if I opposed them, they would say, how dare you oppose his views? So I decided to keep my opinion to myself. And I then wrote, when I recounted the story, I said that is the reason why the only place where Rajiv distinguished himself at school was in the dark room of the photography school.
Right.
He could do his stuff there without anyone seeing him. So when he became Prime Minister, he came with a lot of ideas. And I think his performance in 5 years, this afternoon, Chitra Subramaniam is being celebrated by the Literary Festival for bringing down a Prime Minister. She brought down, in my opinion, the second best Prime Minister we ever had. The first was Jawaharlal Nehru, without a doubt. The second best was Rajiv. Maybe if he'd had time, Lal Bahadur might have become the third best. Narasimha Rao, Narasimha means half a lion. He was half a lion when it came to economic reforms and half a man when it came to confronting the BJP. So it was in his time that the Babri Masjid was broken. And because the Babri Masjid was broken, today we have the regime that we have. And then there was Vajpayee, who, despite the fact that he belonged to the BJP, I have the highest regard for. And there's one reason why I have such a high regard for him. He was 32 years old when he was elected to the Lok Sabha. And Mr. Rasgotra, the former Foreign Secretary, says in his autobiography that he was posted in London. He was the protocol officer attached to Jawaharlal Nehru. So when Vajpayee was included in the Indian parliamentary delegation to the UN session, Nehru had a message sent to Rasgotra saying, I particularly want you to look after this very young MP from the Bharatiya Jansangh, as it was called,
right,
whom I'm sending to New York. I want you to introduce him to all the world leaders who will be coming to New York. I think he has a great future. His name is Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Amazing.
Now that is what greatness is. And Vajpayee ji, because he knew, he had been the foreign minister when he sent me to Pakistan.
Oh.
And every time I spoke about Pakistan, he would come into the house and sit there and listen to me. And most of the time I was speaking on Pakistan, I was attacking the BJP for their attitude towards Muslims, towards Pakistan. And then he got up one day, and in his reply, he said that I always come in here because no one knows Pakistan better than Mani Shankar Aiyar. But every time I ask the Congress to send a delegation to consult with them on foreign policy of Pakistan, they never send Mani Shankar. He said he wanted to know why. Then there was I.K. Gujral, but he had only 9 months.
Correct.
So it was very unfortunate. He'd have made a great prime minister. And then we've had, for the last 11 years, the only prime minister worse than Indira Gandhi. And I think unless we rescue ourselves from him and his rule, this country's destiny is doomed.
But Mani, that brings me to this point. I mean, just to take a little bit of an issue with you, it appears to me that the government of India has made a lot of attempts at rapprochement with Pakistan over the years, and it hasn't gone quite well. So the current government, which is adopting a very muscular approach, and it's a kind of a much more adversarial approach, it can be argued that that was years or decades in the building. So you, with your extensive experience in Pakistan, those days and now, what really should be our foreign policy with respect to Pakistan? That's one. The other is we seem relatively friendless now in the world. And there's something there that's not sitting very well with people today. So I want you to just talk a little bit about those issues.
I'll try to ignore the color of your waistcoat in giving my answer. I was privileged to be posted to Pakistan as the first ever consul general there back in 1978. The first job I did in Pakistan was within the first hour of my first day at work, the phone rang. My clerk picked it up. Looking bewildered, he said, "Sir, it's a call from the office of the Deputy Commissioner of Sakkar, which is a big town in Upper Sindh." So, how can a domestic domestic administrative officer directly contact a diplomat from abroad, particularly a diplomat from an enemy country like India? But I was bewildered, so I picked up the phone, and the conversation took place in Hindustani. I don't know that everyone here knows Hindustani, so I'll translate what was said into English. There's a chap on the other end saying, "Sir, only you can help me." So I said, only I? He said, "You know, your Mr. Advani came here last month." That was in the Janta government. And he asked that a Hindu sadhu who had been at Sardbela, which is an island in the Indus River of Sakkar, he had continued living after partition in Pakistan, in Sindh, but in the 65 war he felt too frightened and went off to India. And Advani had said that since there is a large Hindu concentration in Upper Sindh, could that sadhu be allowed to come back to Sardbela to provide spiritual guidance to the Hindu community? And the Pakistan Zia-ul Haq had agreed. So this chap had come and said, "I am that sadhu's liaison officer." So I said, "Well, what's your problem?" And he said, "Sir, his Muslim followers want to meet him." So I said, "So?" He said, "Will you give me permission?" I said, "Of course you can have permission." My first job in Pakistan was to give permission to a Pakistani officer to allow the Muslim followers of a Hindu sant, 38 years after independence, to take the blessings of this Hindu sant. This is the real Pakistan. Later, I became very close friends with Amin Fahim. He was the son of the Peer of Hala. So, mentioning this incident, I said to him, "Your father, the biggest spiritual authority, like a Shankaracharya," I said, "Your father, the Shankaracharya of Hala, he must have had some Hindu followers." He said, "Of course." So I said, "Are they still in touch with your father?" He says, "Yes, anytime there's a wedding in the family, or a child is born, or somebody passes an exam, or gets a job, they're in touch with my father. You have to get his blessings." Hindu who've run away from Pakistan 30 years earlier, now living in Gujarat mostly, are still in touch. I said, "But how are they in touch?" He said, "Very simple. They send their requests through the smugglers. So there are smugglers who come between Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Pakistan. And he says they know who they are. So they give them a chit saying Chotu Mal has had a boy. And it comes through them to the Shankaracharya sitting in Hala. And he says, then I said to him, Gustaki Maaf, which means forgive my insolence. But I'm told that your father does not give his blessings without a nazrana, without a payment. And he says, "Of course you have to get a payment, give a payment before you get my father's blessings." So I said, "But how do they make a payment?" He said, "The same route. They send 5 rupees through the smuggler along with the chit. And my father sends his blessings back saying, 'May Chotu Mal's son live forever,' and sends it back through the smugglers." And this piece of intelligence I never shared with the government because I saw no reason at all to block this continuing contact between Hindus and Muslims who have lived together for 700, 800 years, built up the warmest connections with each other. The entire culture of India, North India, South India, is so influenced. Here, Tipu Sultan is there, the Wadiyar family is there. Did Tipu Sultan contribute nothing? Did Hyder Ali contribute nothing? Did only Wadiyar contribute? Is Mirza Ismail a zero? The fact of the matter is that we are not a Hindu country. We are a country of all our communities. And much of our history is about Hindus killing Hindus. And that continues till today. So all this business of saying, because I don't eat beef, you are not allowed to eat beef. Because I don't wear a burqa, you're not allowed to wear a burqa. Because I don't speak Urdu, you're not allowed to speak Urdu. Because you look to the west and we only look to the east, that therefore you are a foreigner and I am an Indian. I look to the east. I do my Surya Namaskar and you do your namaz. Hey, is this a basis on which to build a country? And yet, according to one estimate by an international company, whose entry in the internet has been downloaded, and therefore I can't prove it, they said that out of 159 speeches made by the Prime Minister in the last general election, 110 contained either direct attacks or hot dog whistling about the Muslim community. Now, how do you build an India of 140 million people if you remove 200 million of them? You have no alternative. So therefore, we need to live together. And to live together, you have to respect the other. You have to understand that the Kaveri does not belong to Karnataka, but it does. And it doesn't belong to Tamil Nadu, but it does. And the only way of accepting life between an upper riparian and a lower riparian is to share the waters of the Kaveri in a just and fair manner, which will enable Karnataka to become a major producer of rice and allow Tamil Nadu, the Kaveri Delta and Mailaduthurai to continue being the rice bowl of India. That's the only way we can live. And this applies to life as a whole. You can't have an 18-year-old girl in Karnataka wearing a burqa, listening to some gundas shouting Har Har Mahadev or Jai Shri Ram, and her turning around and saying Allahu Akbar. What kind of a nation are you building? She should be allowed to say Allahu Akbar, and you should be allowed to say Har Har Mahadev. That is what Mahatma Gandhi said. Ishwara Allah tero naam, sabko sanmati. Sanmati means good sense. Sabko sanmati de Bhagwan. Why do you say Jai Shri Ram? Can't you say Jai Sita Ram? Why are you discriminating against his wife? Why do you go on a yatra from Somnath, which belongs to Shiva, to Ayodhya, which is where an incarnation of Vishnu came? So what did I do? I went on a yatra from Rameshwaram, where Ram landed, and continued all the way to Ayodhya. The only thing was, I couldn't reach Ayodhya because I was arrested in Faizabad. And when I was arrested in Faizabad, I asked them why. They said it's under section 144, which is to prevent rioting. So I said, I'm delighted you've arrested me. Now go and arrest those car sevaks. I am going to Ayodhya to give the message of peace. These guys are coming to destroy a masjid and create trouble. You're not stopping them, you're stopping me. And then I was called back from my yatra by Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, which is why I give him very low rating. Which is why I said he's a very half a man. He called me back and he says to me, Mani, I have no objection to your yatra, but I don't I don't like your definition of secularism. So I said, so what's wrong with my definition of secularism? He said, you don't seem to understand that this is a Hindu country. So I looked at the Prime Minister of India, the Congress Prime Minister of India, the person who'd been chosen specifically by Indira Gandhi to be her foreign minister, by Sonia Gandhi to be the successor to her husband. I said to him, you are saying this is a Hindu country? It's not. That's what the difference is. That India belongs to all its citizens. And at least 200 million of its citizens are Muslims, they are not Hindus. And there are many others who are Christians or Jains or Sikhs or Buddhists or Adivasis. They all have a right. We are all equal. How can you call it a Hindu country? So therefore, it seems to me that it is very, very dangerous to say one language, one culture, to build India on the basis of uniformity is to destroy our unity. But if we continue building India as Mahatma Gandhi, as Jawaharlal Nehru envisaged it, as building on diversity, securing unity through diversity, that is the only way. God, I don't believe in him. Nehru didn't. But all of you do. What is secularism? It is not prioritizing my beliefs. It is respecting your right to hold beliefs that I do not hold. That is what is secularism. So whether I believe or not in God, I accept that if there is a God, there are many ways to reach him.
Right.
And there is no one way that has been established as being superior to any other. And that seems to me, and the sadhu sitting in the front row will confirm it, that the essence of Hinduism is that we say there are many paths to the same truth. So if there are many paths, one of those paths may have been shown by Jesus, another may have been shown by Abraham, another may have been shown by Muhammad, and yet another may have been shown by Adi Shankaracharya. And what was Adi Shankaracharya doing? He was attacking the Buddhists. So there was another way in which you could get to God, which is the Buddha. So with all this, why do you want to impose one language, one religion, one culture on a nation whose genius is, and no other country in the world has succeeded in doing it? We are geniuses that we know how to live with diversity. We know how to celebrate diversity. You look at those stupid Europeans. The distance from Moscow to Lisbon is the same as the distance from Srinagar to Rameshwaram. And the distance from the North Cape of Norway to the island of Crete in Greece is the same as between Somnath and Mizoram's capital of Aizawl. In this, which we regard as a one Bharat Mata, whose right hand has been cut off to make Pakistan, and whose left hand has been cut off to make Bangladesh, we have one country. The Europeans have 43 countries. Their definition of a nation is that if you speak French, then you're a Frenchman. If you speak French and are a Protestant, then you're a doubtful Frenchman. If you speak German, then you're a German. But if you're a German and a Protestant, then you're really a German. But if you're a German and a Catholic, you're a doubtful German. Now, this is ethnicity-based nationalism.
Right.
Ours is not ethnicity-based. A Mizo is as much an Indian as a Tamil is. A Gujarati is as much an Indian as a Kannadiga is. Therefore, a Kashmiri Muslim is as much an Indian as the most pious Brahmin from Tanjore. But if you say, no, the chap from Tanjore is more an Indian because he's a Hindu, as Narasimha Rao told me. So what happened was that Narasimha Rao on the 3rd of August, 3rd of December, suddenly my phone rang at 5 in the morning, and the voice said that the Prime Minister wants to talk to you. I'll just finish, I promise you. He rang me, so I said, put him on. So the Prime Minister came on, and I found that he was crying. As he said, Mani, I've tried to do everything. They betrayed me. So listening to his voice, I said, sir, can I come across? He says, you'll come now. It was 5 in the morning. I said, yeah, I'll come. So give me 20 minutes. So I got ready, I went. He'd composed himself by then. He says, now what do I do? I said, it's too late. You should have stopped these people from entering Ayodhya when they were gathering in lakhs. And they were armed with pickaxes, they were armed with everything that was meant to destroy. You don't stop them then. And you're asking me now how to stop them. So, we need to stop evil when it is at the door. If you let it into the house, then you get poisoned. You cannot take a snake to bed. It'll bite you. And if it does, there's no hope for you. So therefore, we know the path. Nobody knows the path better than Indians. We had Gopu Gandhi here yesterday. He's written a book called The Undying Light. The last chapter of that talks about the darkness that has enveloped us in India. And then he says, mystically, that there is an undying light that is the soul of India. I told him, this is rubbish. It's not the soul of India. What will save us is that since 66% of Indians have never voted for the BJP, all the 66% have to do is to get together in the India Alliance. And we'll beat them. That's all we need. You don't need mysteries. And then we can get back to building a diverse nation of which all of us can be proud, and we can celebrate every Indian, whether she wears a hijab or whether she doesn't know how to keep her pallu on, or like these Kurgi women whom I saw yesterday in large numbers, they wear a brooch and don't have to keep tugging at their pallu. This is India, an India in which you wear a pallu or you don't wear a pallu, but that doesn't determine whether you're an Indian or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mani. I think it's been a great session, but I'll have to draw the curtains here. Mani is around, hopefully, so please jump on him and pounce on him. I don't think we have time for questions. Afraid run out. So Sudhir, I'll get you to talk to Mani just after the session. I'll have to wind it down. Sorry about that, but he was a fascinating speaker. Thank you, Mani, for sharing your perspectives at the MLF. Thank you, everybody.